you haven't already, you are on your way to having a massive spike, a big surge of illegal immigrants coming up from the southern border.
The city of Franklin received this letter from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. In short, it says that hundreds of people going through the immigration process could end up in Middle Tennessee cities.
Roughly 600 cities here in the United States are now being warned that the city is going to be taken over. We are seeing just mass panic from the American people. We're seeing panic from lawmakers, and we're seeing panic from the federal government. What's happening right now is going to impact every single one of us. I want to break down what is going on, because what we are seeing right now is a crisis unfolding. And this is something that we knew was coming, but now residents are pushing back. The citizens of those cities are warning that things are going to go from bad to worse.
This evening, the Dade County Sheriff's Office says more undocumented immigrants were at the Pilot gas station in Rising Fawn. We reported yesterday the Dade County Sheriff stopped a busload of immigrants at the same Pilot gas station on Wednesday as they were en route from Texas to Washington, D.C. Today, another busload riding the same bus line were seen being dropped at a hotel in Chattanooga.
Former military officers have taken up arms and have begun patrolling our side of the border. What do you ever find in the packs?
It all depends because, like when I first started 14 years ago, the cost was only $2,000 a head for Mexicans to come across. Now that cost is up to $8,000 plus a head to come across, and the further away.
According to new data gathered by U.S. intelligence agencies, the risk of an assault by Hezbollah is rising alongside growing tensions in the region.
Hezbollah is a very real threat to us here in the United States.
Simone Ladine, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Mideast Policy, says the Iran-backed terror group has a longer reach than many others in the region.
They have sleeper cells here in the U.S. in many cities across the country. This has been documented in multiple court cases. And we have reason to believe that they also have caches where they have stored materials around the country in the event that someone hits the go button to start attacks. I believe they are pretty well prepared. They have been sitting in wait for the order to go for many believe for years now.
New tonight, hundreds of people going through the legal immigration process could end up right here in the mid-state.
That's right. This as polls here and around the country show immigration is now the top issue for Americans leading up to the presidential election. Fox 17 News' Kylie Walker now live downtown with more on exactly how all this will work.
The city of Franklin received this letter from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. In short, it says that hundreds of people going through the immigration process could end up in Middle Tennessee cities. Last fall, DHS sent this official notice saying nearly 600, quote, non-citizens were looking to travel to these areas highlighted on your screen. Most of them coming from Guatemala, Venezuela, Honduras, and Mexico.
It's very troubling that, someone can come to this country, name Nashville or Greater Nashville as the destination, and we're not finding out about it for months later.
U.S. Congressman Andy Ogles telling Fox 17 News that he had a conference call with DHS yesterday with a series of questions, including a request for updated numbers, how people will be tracked, and if they have prior convictions.
They didn't have any good answers.
The notice says DHS may release non-citizens.
Have any good? No, they don't. You know what? Because that's not how this game is being played, right? I mean, it's like that when they show up, and you'll have to deal with them then. That's why this is a border crisis.
Basically would mean applying for some sort of visa. And so coming across the border and wanting to be processed and claiming asylum we've clearly hit the threshold where we can't allow
The Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition says they receive 150 calls or walk-ins per month.
People who come here are often desperate to find those opportunities for themselves and eager to be part of our country.
One of our priorities as a city is to ensure that we are taking care of one another. And so we are looking at ensuring that we have the capacity.
Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell was unsure as of this morning if his administration has received this same letter. He says the city will be contacting DHS. Now, the city of Franklin also says that with this letter, it did not offer any details as to when these individuals would travel to Middle Tennessee. Also, they say that the city has not received any reports of individuals arriving to the area since this notice, since they got that last September. For now, in Nashville, Kylie Walker, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
So that news story was out, I think, at the end of January, and I've had a whole number of you say, hey, Sean, it sounds like thousands of people are going to Middle Tennessee. And I've kind of been like, it's at this point in time, it's a few hundred, but it looks like those numbers are coming in. Let's keep going here.
They call themselves Arizona Border Recon. Strapped with heavy artillery, they intimidate smugglers and keep them south of the border. And the leader of that group, Tim Foley, joins us now. Tim, describe your daily operations on the border.
Well, what we do, and thanks for having me, Jesse. Where we operate in is an area that is known for gotaways. And that's a term that the government uses for, they've picked them up either on camera or ground sensors, but there's not enough agents left because they're dealing with all the other ones coming in.
The fact that many thousands of people have come across the border that are probably here to do harm. The best records that are official say that we've had about 10 million come across the border in the last few years. 20,000 Chinese just since the start of the year. Those are just numbers from the south, the southern border. Don't get a lot of information on the northern border, but there is information, though, that border on the north, the Canadian border, is becoming more and more porous. It always has been, but it's becoming more so because they're pulling Border Patrol agents off of the northern border to take them down to the south. And so the possibility of more people coming across there, or ports, or flying in, or all these types of things is just, it's ever increasing. And this is serious, folks. This is a very serious threat, very serious danger, and we're already seeing the repercussions. This isn't something that could happen. It's something that's already happening. It's just getting worse.
Flames and smoke billowing through the halls of a Texas hospital after a car crashed into the emergency room at St. David's North Austin Medical Center.
We're going to be out checking for patients and injuries right now.
Police say the driver died at the scene, and 5 others were injured, including 2 children.
I got a white Acura that drove through the entrance to the civilian side of the emergency room.
It felt like I was watching a movie.
Stephen Hughes says he met his wife, Michelle, inside the ER before she was admitted to the hospital for a surgical procedure. Just a short time later, Hughes says he heard loud noises and went out into the lobby. He recorded this video to show his wife what he witnessed.
Down there, I'm thinking that maybe there was an explosion of some kind. I see a car embedded into the ER lobby area. So the tires were spinning, causing tire smoke, and it started to fill up the area pretty quickly.
Hughes tells us the hospital staff sprang into action and began administering first aid.
The Austin Police Department has vehicular homicide detectives on the scene, and they are investigating the cause.
Hospital officials say patients who were already inside the ER when the crash happened were sent to other facilities for care. and that no other departments at the facility were impacted.
It's also so troubling, and I suppose if I put myself in the shoes of the Chinese, I'd want to do whatever I'm going to do now while Joe Biden's in office. Should we expect that, in case something changes in 2024, should we expect things to increase? I mean, I know, here's Chris. Let me just show you this, because this is Christopher Wray talking about China's cyber threat capabilities, which we see are advancing as well. Listen.
If you took every single one of the FBI's cyber agents and intelligence analysts and focused them exclusively on the China threat, China's hackers would still outnumber FBI cyber personnel by at least 50 to 1.
So in addition to this, these cyber attacks, we also are seeing a massive increase of Chinese national military-age men, well-funded, by the way, coming, across the Darien Gap and through our border.
Yes.
What does all this mean?
Well, in the big picture, they're getting ready to use force.
Middle Tennessee, if you haven't already, you are on your way to having a massive spike, a big surge of illegal immigrants coming up from the southern border.
County Sheriff is making some changes now to make sure the community is prepared for any terrorist threats. He announced these changes just today.
And WCPO 9 News reporter Anna Azalian is live at the Butler County Sheriff's Office. Anna, the sheriff just got back from a conference in D.C.
Craig, Tanya, he did. And Sheriff Richard Jones says they heard from the FBI director who was talking about terrorism threats. So now Jones is making changes here in his department, but he's also asking.
We were told by the FBI director, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Jones wants to make sure Butler County is prepared, and one step he's taking is equipping every sheriff's department vehicle with a rifle and a go bag. He says this will have extra magazines for the rifles and other necessities. Plus, Jones announced he's working to boost security by looking into drone detection technology for his department.
We're looking at maybe squad training. We train squad training. We train for school shootings, what to do when we get there, or mall shootings. We're going to look at things a little differently.
The steps Jones is taking go beyond his department, though. He's working to make sure community members have the tools they need.
We're going to start training civilians on what to do when disasters hit and emergencies hit.
The sheriff's department is working with Texas A&M to offer a class, and Jones says it's already full, so he's working to make more of them available.
I come to you not to alarm you, but to arm you.
With that in mind, Jones has asked 2 local state representatives for some help. He wrote them a letter asking them to introduce legislation with 3 goals in mind.
That the governor appoint a task force to do interdiction on people and drugs coming in across our waterways and our borders into the state of Ohio.
The letter also asked for legislation that would allow state law enforcement to arrest and charge illegal immigrants.
A massive increase of Chinese national military-age men, well-funded, by the way, coming, across the Darien Gap and through our border.
Yes.
What does all this mean?
Well, in the big picture, they're getting ready to use force against Taiwan if they have to. They're sending quite a few messages to both us and the Taiwan government that we're prepared to use force. If we do, it'll be something you Americans will regret, because they don't say this openly, but we know from this FBI testimony, among other sources, they have placed Trojan horses in our power grid, in our water system, the ground links that go up to satellites. These are not often protected, so encrypted data there can be blocked by the Chinese. They're kind of warning everybody, don't make trouble on Taiwan, because if you do, while you're busy with Iran and the Red Sea and the Houthis, we will attack Taiwan with either a blockade or missile strikes or something even more serious like the Normandy landing. This is very scary, especially when we found out, Rachel, I think you covered this, we found out that the Chinese spy balloon was using an American internet provider to send burst transmissions encrypted back to China of what they were finding around our nuclear facilities. China has built 100 nuclear weapons, according to the Pentagon, in the past year. No one else is building nuclear weapons like that. So this is all part of a big pattern, Rachel. You've covered it very well.
Wow. We still don't know what all these men are doing coming across our border.
That's right.
Your suspicion is they're spies?
My suspicion is we need to be prepared for conflict with China and in a way that they find credible, and we can deter them. And these men coming across, military-age men crossing the border into America, the worst case is it's organized, and China knows about it.
Middle Tennessee, if you haven't already, you are on your way to having a massive spike, a big surge of illegal immigrants coming up from the southern border.